everybody, welcome back. I hope you're doing well. One of the biggest questions I get when people start to dive into writing a book is how much do they need to plot beforehand? How much do they need to know about their story arc before they can dive in? So this week we're going to talk about creating a bare bones outline for your story, yes, even if you are a pantser. Wherever you're at in the process, it's always a great idea to have a bare bones outline started, a story base, if you will, to work from. And this is true whether you're a plotter or a pantser. So a plotter being someone who likes to plot, and a pantser being somebody who likes to write on the fly, write by the seat of their pants. You plotters out there, you already dive into an outline naturally, so you could probably skip this video, unless you are looking to streamline that part of the process. For those of you looking to write more books in a year or just write faster, this can be key to do that. I did a video on a couple of tips on how you can write faster, how you can figure out how to streamline your process in that way. I'll put the video link up above if you want to check that out. But for you pantsers out there or anyone curious, there are a number of details, a bare bones outline that I highly recommend you figure out before you start diving in. It can save you a lot of time and heartache along the way to keep you from getting stuck or blocked, help you with problems, as well as on the revision and editing side as well once you get to that point. So number one is figure out your subgenre. I know this is not what you were expecting, and it's not a typical thing that people generally talk about, but a subgenre can tell you so much about what you're writing with just that one decision that it really is key to know beforehand to help guide you as you write. For example, if you know you're writing fantasy, that's great, but are you writing urban fantasy or epic fantasy? If you know anything about those subgenres, you know they are vastly different. Same thing with mystery. Cozy mystery versus procedural. Romance. Small town romance versus paranormal, although those can be a little bit closer at times. Whatever it ends up being for you, there are a variety of reader and just genre expectations that go into a subgenre. Length, pacing, tropes, story structure, a whole host of things that can tell you a lot about your story without having to plot all that out, without having to dive into a really deep outline. So this is something that if you can beforehand, I highly recommend you decide, you do a little bit of research into, and you find out more about it so that that can guide you as you write along the way. So number two is setting, and this is going to probably feed a lot from your subgenre. Obviously, a small town romance tells you exactly where that's going to be, and it can help tell you a lot about your plot, your characters, your atmosphere, and really give you one step further into the process. It's relatively self-explanatory using the examples we talked about above. If you are talking about, again, a small town romance, you know exactly where that needs to be, but it can also tell you, if you're putting it in a real town, that tells you a lot about what you need to research or write about. If it's a fake town, it tells you what you can make up, how you can be flexible. Or with an urban fantasy, for example, an urban fantasy set in New Orleans is going to be very, very different with feel, characters, culture, everything like that than an urban fantasy set in Chicago. They are vastly different. So even just by that one small detail of the basic setting can tell you a lot about your plot, your characters, and everything overall that you don't necessarily need to have all the details ironed out in the beginning, but you can refer back to that one decision to help guide your choices along the way as you write. Number three is character goal and motivation. Now, when I said bare bones outline earlier, this is probably what you were expecting me to talk about, and it is in here. It's very important. When writers dive in, they start to plot out a book, or they start to just think about what they want to write. A lot of times, everybody can get lost in the details, so they worry about the characters, what they look like, their culture, their personality, their sexuality, everything like that. And those are all very important details, but they are also supporting pillars to the two main things that are going to guide a lot of your decisions, which is their motivation and their goal. In the end, as your book comes together, as all the pieces fit together, you want the character to work with the plot. Why they're doing this, why they're involved, how this all fits. And that all leads back to goal and motivation. So that is what you want to be clear before you dive in. So when you know your main characters, both good and evil, protagonist and antagonist, What do they want? What is their goal, and why do they need it? What is their motivation? Once you have those two things, then you'll be able to build from that, to add all of the other details that then surround that and can play into that to make sure everything works together seamlessly. So for example, if you know your character's goal is to graduate college and their motivation is to make their family proud, what does that tell you about that character? How can you build from those two base points to add to the pillars that will be supporting them? Is that person super ambitious and not ready for a relationship? They just want to focus on school, and then that can add to the story as far as their personality and who they are in a romance. That's great conflict. Or maybe they have always struggled in school, they have self-esteem issues, and that's going to be a part of their personality and conflict. And then building from there what that says about how they outwardly present themselves. So are they grumpy or sunshine? Are they a city person or a country person? I mean, you can dive into these details as far as you want to go, but having it all come back to the main points and how does that work with everything else. So the number 4 is conflict. And I just touched on this a little bit, but based on the goal and motivation you have for your characters, what is the main conflict going to be? How are they going to come together and clash? How is this all going to build to that big climax moment? Now, you don't need to necessarily know the resolution or how exactly they're going to get there or all of the details, anything like that, but having the main conflict in mind and having it be able to work well with their opposing goals or their opposing motivations or everything like that, in how that's going to cause that friction, cause that tension, can help you keep your plot moving forward, can help you with your pacing, can help you with your chemistry, everything like that, just by this one decision. And it all ties together as well. So the conflict ties with the character's goal and motivation, which then works well with the setting. It's obviously going to be different if they're at a university versus if they are in an office setting, or if they're in the mountains on an adventure in a fantasy, everything like that. And then as well, then that takes the step back into subgenre. You can see how all of these things tie together, these 4 core base details, this bare bones outline that without getting lost in the details can tell you so much about your story, so that it can help guide your plot decisions, your character decisions, everything like that, as well as when you get lost or stuck, you can refer back to this outline and you can see whether something needs to change, whether you're going in the right or the wrong direction, and how you may need to correct in that manner to still maintain everything moving forward as smoothly as possible. Now, I know some of you are getting to the end of this and you are wanting to yell at me through the screen because you're like, Susan, writing is not this clean. My characters talk to me. I don't know this much about them. I don't know how this is going to go, or maybe they change their minds halfway through, everything like that. And I hear you. You are not wrong. In that case, if that is the way that you write, if you are that type of writer, don't fight that. What you want to do is still do this bare bones outline. I highly recommend it no matter what type of writer you are. But if you get to that point and your characters keep fighting you on the direction that you know this needs to go to make sure everything stays balanced with the bare bones outline that you've written, maybe you need to revise. Revising is never a bad thing. So go back to your bare bones outline, see if something needs to change, see if you were on the wrong path originally, make those changes, and then continue to move forward on that new track and see if that works better for you. It's all trial and error. It's never going to be a perfect process, but by looking at these details and keeping them in mind and shifting as necessary, yes, you can make sure you're staying on track and getting your writing done as quickly, as cleanly, and as easily as possible. Hopefully this has been helpful. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions. If you like this video, don't hesitate to hit that thumbs up button or subscribe. It'll let you know when I have new videos out every week, as well as helping the channel, which I always appreciate. If you have any other publishing, writing, tech questions and you want to hear from me, leave me a message or don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to make sure we're talking about what you need to do to be successful and move forward the best way you possibly can. Otherwise, until next week, keep writing.